It helps. Like the more oxygen reaches your brain, the more present you are. I'm like, should I do the intro right now or wait until someone comes?
Well, we can wait around a bit, I guess.
Yeah, until you get your first, until we get off. We do have someone that's actually put something in chat.
Yeah, Eugene.
Yeah, May 15th.
Eugene.
Oh, May the 5th. Right, okay.
Yeah, I think like when they register, they're also able to leave.
Yeah, you access chat straight away when you register. Did you say someone you knew was joining, Jim?
No.
That's what you said.
You just made that up.
I was sure you said like someone you're like asking about the Laravel stuff was going to join. All right,
no, I don't know who's joining.
Did I imagine that? I don't
know. Was that last time?
No, it was just. It was like 5 minutes ago.
I did verify last time. I don't know anyone joining.
You did verify last time. I did verify last time. What are you talking about? Did you verify?
I thought I did. No, I did silent authentication first time. It was like it was the first knowledge quest. It was the first ever knowledge quest. I did silent auth in Laravel. So yeah.
Cool. Not with Livewire then.
Oh, this is cutting edge stuff now.
Yeah.
I think I feel like we'll give it to the 5-minute mark. And then from there, I'll do an intro. And we'll just go on as usual. And if no one comes, it'll just be for the YouTube people.
It'll be for posterity.
You sent me a song. Kicks like a
it's that.
It's the rave track. I'm about to post it on the Birmingham Plaque because why not? Shameless plug.
I like the vibe already.
It's a stone cold banger.
Stone cold banger. Millennial chat.
Listen to the rest after this.
I think we're showing our age here, Jim, aren't we? We're not cool, are we? We're not cool anymore.
No. I referred to someone that I fancied as a fox, and I think someone found it really funny because it was. But I realised I was like probably sounding like my dad talking about the Rolling Stones were really rock and roll, weren't they? And you just think, oh dear, that's.
I feel like you have to know where you came from to understand where you're at. I respect it all.
Sure,
that's true. I do enjoy saying a lot of. I do a lot of skibbity toilet and Ohio, and I call things sick and things like that. And like Gen
Wait, how old are your kids?
I do it on purpose because.
Isn't Alex like 3 or something? How old's Alex?
What's that? Well, he started saying he's only 5.
Oh, he's 5 now. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's saying skibbity toilet, and he's into Transformers and things. I really hope someone's joined at this point because that'd be really funny.
Just us.
It's still just the 3 of us. We'll give it another minute and then we can start.
You can edit this, right?
Yeah, we can edit this.
We can.
Imagine this being on YouTube. Yeah. Us just talking absolute nonsense for 5 minutes.
I feel like that would be the video that got the most engagement anyway.
Our most successful content yet. We'd have to change our whole content strategy.
I tell you what, on the outreach team, Alexandra would absolutely love to do an outtakes video. It would be she'd have the most fun ever if she did an outtakes video. We should do that.
All right, it's officially 5:05. Welcome everyone to the Vonage Knowledge Quest. Today we'll be exploring magic interactivity with Jim and Laravel. Oh, this is why I don't do intros.
You corpsing? Are you corpsing already?
I'm corpsing already. Jim and Laravel. How do I come back?
We're just normal men, Jim.
Just normal men. Just innocent men.
I don't know that reference either.
Oh, you have to look that up. It's brilliant.
Let me take a drink of water and I'll try again.
Take two.
I should have taken a breath. Okay. Welcome everyone to today's Knowledge Quest. Today we'll be exploring magic interactivity, implementing RCS with Laravel and Livewire. And today we have Jim and Karl who will be taking us through all this fun. Introduce yourself,
Thanks,
guys.
Brittany. I will just share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, light should be coming up now. Just got a bit of lag. Everyone see that? Yeah, cool. Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome to the session. As we said, today we're going to talk about RCS messaging, how to integrate that into a Laravel application using the Vonage Messages API and the Vonage PHP SDK. So, before we get started, I'll introduce myself. My name's Karl. I'm a developer advocate here at Vonage. One of the main areas of focus is Vonage's Messages API, which includes the RCS channel. So, we'll start off with a brief overview of what RCS messaging is and why you might want to use it. We'll then look at the implementation of the RCS messaging channel within the Vonage Messages API to get an understanding of like the requests and responses that you get from the API. And then I'll hand over to Jim for the remainder of the session. He'll run through a number of Laravel capabilities in the form of Livewire, Reverb, Echo, and model event broadcasting, and explore how these are used alongside the Messages API implementation in the PHP SDK in order to integrate RCS messaging into our Laravel demo app. And then finally, we'll leave some time at the end for any questions that you might have about what we covered in the session or about Vonage APIs more generally. So, what exactly is RCS messaging? RCS is an acronym for Rich Communication Services, and it's a messaging protocol which provides the capability to send long text messages, rich media like images and videos, as well as interactive elements such as buttons and things that invite immediate action from the recipient. So the capabilities of RCS messaging make it suitable for a wide variety of use cases. These things include things like notification messages, customer support, marketing messages, sales transactions, appointment scheduling, and much more. So why would you want to use RCS rather than, say, SMS or MMS or maybe an established messaging service like WhatsApp? So I like to think of RCS messaging as sitting in a kind of sweet spot between SMS and MMS on one side and apps like WhatsApp on the other side. So SMS and MMS have been around for a long time now. They send data using the mobile telephony network, and in that sense they're kind of limited in terms of the amount of data that can be sent in a single message, sent and received in a single message, and that imposes constraints on things like the amount of text that you can have in the message, the things like image size and quality, video size and quality. In comparison, RCS uses a data connection such as Wi-Fi or mobile data in order to transmit its data, so it isn't bound by those same constraints. So RCS is kind of closer really in functionality to something like WhatsApp. Also like WhatsApp, it provides interactive elements, so think things like suggested replies, suggested buttons, action buttons to do certain things, such as interacting with different capabilities of your mobile device. You can save a calendar event, for example, open a link in a browser, share or view a location, a number of different things. And you can do this all within the messaging app. So unlike WhatsApp, RCS works natively on the user's phone without having to install a separate application. So in that sense, it has a far wider reach than WhatsApp. RCS has been supported in Android devices for a long time now, and recently in iOS 18.1, which was released at the back end of last year, it's supported in in iOS devices too. So what RCS gives you is like the capabilities of WhatsApp, but with the reach essentially of like SMS or MMS. As I said, it's kind of that sweet spot between the two. So as mentioned, one of the advantages of RCS over channels like SMS and MMS is that RCS messaging provides the capability for rich messaging and interactivity. So to give you a few examples of this, you can send messages such as rich cards and rich card carousels, which can include multiple elements, text, images, video, and suggestions in one message. Suggested replies, where rather than typing out a reply, the recipient just has to tap on a button or chip, and the suggested text will be sent in response. And there's also various suggested actions initiated in the same way, such as opening a URL, dialing a number, viewing or sharing a location, or creating a calendar event. And these actions all leverage the capabilities of the user's device. So RCS Business Messaging is one of a number of messaging channels supported by the Vonage Messages API. Let's have a quick look at the API specification. Slow to load. So I'll narrow it down. So this is, for example, sending an RCS text message. Like all the channels in the Messages API, you have a channel param, which is RCS in this case, a message type of text, and a to and a from. The from in this case is the name for your RCS agent, or the ID for your RCS agent. The to is the number of the device you want to send to, and the text is, well, the text. Compare that to something like an image. Very similar, but you have an image instead of a text, which is an object, which has a URL property, which is the publicly accessible URL for the image file. And video and file are very similar to image. And then there's a custom type, which is used to send all of the custom message types within a custom field, which isn't displayed here because it's not required in the spec. But you basically have this custom object, which we'll look at in a second. Custom messages. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of different message types, such as suggested replies, suggested actions, and carousels, and these all are sent using the custom message type. And we'll look at some of these now. For example, suggestions look something like this. You have an array of suggestions, and then suggestions of objects within that. So you have the suggested text, what ice cream flavor do you like, vanilla or chocolate, and then the recipient can just click the button without having to type, and you get the response back in an inbound message. So the Messages API provides inbound message webhooks, which the inbound message will come in on. The structure will look something like this. It will come in as a reply type, and yeah, it'll have the ID and the title of whatever the person. The ID is basically the postback data that's in this property, and the title is the text that we have. Then you have suggested actions, which the structure of which kind of very much depends on what the action is. So, for example, open a URL, you'll have a suggested action which has an open URL action and a URL property. Dial a number is very similar, but you have a phone number and so on. So yeah, that's pretty much custom messages. Just before we move on, I'm just going to quickly show you an example of a code snippet. So we have RCS implemented in all of our server SDKs, including the PHP SDK, and sending, say, a text message to the RCS channel using the PHP SDK will look something like this. I'm sure Jim will kind of cover this in a little bit more detail. So yeah, that's really all I've got to cover around the Messages API and the RCS channel within that. So I will now hand over to Jim, who's going to walk us through various Laravel features and how they're included in the demo application. I think we have a question though, which we might go to just real quick before, from Christopher. Working on RCS app in 2 months' time, can you do a custom enter reply suggestion and have that picked up by the API. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Chris. The custom enter reply. Do you want to elaborate on?
Hey, Chris, if you want to join the stage, I'm happy to invite you on. That's an option.
Oh, okay. I see. I mean,
So often vanilla
there's no kind of
chocolate.
there's not really any UI for that within like an RCS messaging app, but you could say, other, and then the user would have to type just a normal text response, I guess, as an inbound response. I'm not sure how you would want to handle that on the back end. It would kind of depend, right? So I guess if you'd have like the inbound button reply message would be other as their option, and then you would wait for a text message to come on the inbound webhook as well, and you'd handle that in some way and connect it to the inbound button. But yeah, the implementation for that isn't native within the API. It's like, yeah, it would be up to you exactly how you want to orchestrate that, I guess. Okay, thanks, Chris. Good question. Okay, I'll stop sharing and hand over to Jim.
Thanks, Karl. This is where it gets silly, because now you've had RCS explained to you, and now we have to do something with it. And what are we going to do? And I'm like, and Karl's like, we need to do a thing in RCS. And I'm like, do you know what? Do you know what? There's been a lot of hype around. There's been a lot of hype around about Laravel Livewire, and it feels like the same kind of hype around like with Node.js, where they're like, Node's going to take over everything, it's going to take over the world, and there's an infinite loop and blah blah blah. And it turns out that it's just full of holes and dreadful like everything else, because we're software engineers at the end of the day. So I'm going to share now my screen, and my slides are nowhere near as elaborate here. It's fairly basic stuff. My part is I have to we're not going to see any of the features that Karl's just been speaking about, like, image capabilities and video capabilities. They're all there. I coded them in the PHP SDK, and when I was doing this, I found an instant bug because my tests didn't pick it up. So I probably need to fix that. I fixed that in my app, and trust me, for everyone watching, I will put out a PR very, very quickly to get the library updated. It's a common kind of PHP thing where I've defined a type, and it's like, you're setting the type before I know what the type is, and that kind of thing. So to implement RCS, we're only going to use text. Later on, I will update this app, and this app will include things like pest and things like that for testing stuff. But I realized that obviously this is PHP world stuff, so I'm going to explain what this implementation kind of is. I've left in my standard slide that says, hey, here's about me. There's a picture of me holding a cup of coffee and looking fancy. There's some stuff, and I do my usual thing when I do talks, which is, if you like what you see, then send me love, and if you hate what you see, send me hate, because also that's valid feedback. But you can find me on LinkedIn and GitHub. Don't look at GitHub. It's full of unfinished stuff. But for socials, really, at the moment, Blue Sky and Mastodon is where I'm most accurate, most kind of active, and probably LinkedIn, really. So starting with this, there's only 4 slides in this, which is, right, what's our stack like? So Laravel, for anyone that doesn't know, Laravel is now, Laravel and Symfony are the kind of probably the leading PHP backend frameworks, and they are, the community around them and the business around them is so sort of massive that it's run away. It's worth noting, yes, WordPress is still very big. I say very big. I mean, WordPress is enormous, but it's like sort of this big juggernaut where it's kind of a bit unruly at the moment. Drupal, incidentally, is still a very big player, but they've taken the kind of legacy PHP stuff off the back end. They bolted Symfony onto the back end of it, and I think that something proprietary like Easy Publish did that as well. Laravel's really sort of ascending into the sort of stratosphere now with developer experience. Their docs are sort of second to none. The ecosystem and the product, the sort of open source product they offer, is second to none. They've now had $58 million of Series A funding injected into them for cloud products. It's getting massive, and for anyone that has the preconceptions of the PHP from the bad days, it doesn't look anything like that. It looks, these days, when you're coding in something like PHP, the language itself, but also in Laravel, it looks more like there's a lot of inherited closures from JavaScript. There's a lot of, obviously, Java and C inspired kind of language. It's good to work with, and it also, it's fast. It is actually genuinely fast. I've just come from PHP Day, which was in Verona, and someone from Datadog, Florian Egghardt, I can't remember his surname. He did the 1 billion the 1 billion row challenge, and he did it. He managed to get it down to about 8 seconds, and 8 seconds for 1 billion rows. If anyone says PHP is slow, they're not informed. What's really cool, though, is that originally Laravel was inspired by the way that Taylor Rockwell made it, was inspired by Ruby on Rails. And, you know, Karl's on the call today, and he's introduced to RCS, and he's our Ruby developer. And watching languages and ideas exchange, like where things are inherited off each other, is really interesting. Ruby introduced something called Hotwire, and so I guess naturally something would happen in the PHP scene. And here it is. It's called Livewire. You code PHP components like web components, or, you know, and inheriting off web components, React or Vue web components, but it's back-end language that then pushes to the front end. So it pushes it, and the front-end composition and the AJAX requests that automatically poll it and what it's listening for is kind of there. So we're basically going to implement the RCS client with Livewire. With Livewire, to send a message, great. Oh, this was a delight. It was so lovely. You just press the button. I did some tutorials, and I was like, hey, this is magic. I've had to do no JavaScript, and I really like not doing JavaScript. I really like not doing JavaScript. It's so nice to not do JavaScript. You know, sorry, front-end devs. I'm just not very good at it. Maybe it's just because I'm a simpleton. But if you send a message via RCS, then what about when someone replies? So when someone replies, in Vonage, it comes from the dashboard. You configure a webhook. Incoming webhook comes in, and then it fires it and basically says, update me. Livewire doesn't have the native capability to know when something's coming in. It doesn't, which means then you have to do crazy things. And then you have to get Laravel Reverb, which is a native WebSocket connection. You can use other things. Previously, we used to use, for things in backend development, we used to use Pusher and Ably. Reverb is now an internal one. So when you want to do an internal server, you can run your own WebSocket server for real-time broadcasting listening. And so there's only one part left, which is then Laravel Echo. And Echo is the front-end part where it's listening to what Reverb is broadcasting. If this sounds very difficult and convoluted, I'm not going to lie to you, it's because it is. There's no way around it. This is quite a complex thing to actually do, but to get these things out of the box talking to each other is okay. One of the people that did this for me, I say this, it took a 4-hour debugging session yesterday, was Chris Miller, who is now watching today. Thanks, Chris. I wouldn't have really been able to do this because I was following tutorials and I was following various docs, and basically it just wasn't possible without a second pair of eyes. And within Vonage, I'm the PHP advocate. If Karl would have looked at it, I think he would have just looked at horror and go, "What's this? This is just nonsense. Why is it doing that?" And we'll get onto this stuff because it's really quite wacky. So those are the things we're going to use. Let's get onto our IDE. let's get onto the idea. Here we are. Right. So Laravel app out of the box, you can configure it with the scaffolding, with the boilerplate, using it will ask you when you want to create a new app, if you want to scaffold out the front end, whether you want to use React, whether you want to use Vue. I chose the standard Blade templating engine, but with Livewire. So if you want to do something in Livewire, it will look something like this. I've created a view in a controller. So first of all, if we go to our roots, and I'm going to go into presentation mode so that you can see. Presentation mode on, enter presentation mode. So I started off with a /Livewire. So I now have a root called /Livewire, and it doesn't actually hit a controller. It just hits a view, which is a template called Livewire. So this is all for a lot of this is for Karl's just enjoyment, because Blade is based on. It's not. I was going to say it's based on
ERP? No.
Liquid, the one that Shopify used. That one.
Right.
But Twig is based on that, which is what Symfony mainly used. Anyway, so we have a Livewire. We have a Livewire kind of template here, and we've got some styling. And then here you see we have Livewire chat. And you do, to make sure that Livewire is working correctly, we have styles and we have scripts. And what that's doing, in the same way that Hotwire does, is effectively something that's a pattern from years ago, which is effectively pushing front-end code that then polls stuff and has automatic listeners. So this technically is actually there's nothing new, but the way that it's implemented for this is nice, and now it's modern. It's got it's got a kind of a bit of a scene and a community behind it. So what does chat look like? So if you want to look at chat, you've got chat.blade, you've got Livewire message components, 4 messages as message. So you've got a loop for all the messages, and it'll be the controller that finds this. Dump the messages out. Otherwise, you've got no messages found. And then we have this special syntax, which is form, wire, submit. You've got prevent, which is prevent the default submit, and send message. Now, send message, that's PHP. So the state of the component is being held entirely in PHP, which is very, very cool, because, I don't like front-end stuff. And then you've got a submit button. A submit button basically says that when you hit send, you've got to send message as the function. So the component has a matching PHP file. So that looks like this. It is chat. And if we go into chat extends component. That's extending off a Livewire component. We have our state. Our state is the messages that will be in the chat, and then we have post message, and that is a temporary state. So if post message comes in from the HTML form, it will put it in there and then tell it to do something, and then it will wipe it. Listeners, we're going to ignore. I should have ignored that and deleted it. This is a built-in API for an API method for Livewire. It's called mount. Mount is same as Vue. It's exactly the same as Vue, which is, what am I going to do when I load? Cool. I'm going to load messages. What's load messages? Well, I'm going to use the Eloquent ORM system, which is similar to the Rails one, where it's Active Record from Microsoft, where I'm going to load conversation ID. This is very, very important, because everything belongs to a conversation, and we'll get onto that for WebSockets, where every incoming message has to belong to this. Otherwise, you can't listen properly. And I'll let you know why. So we're going to load the conversation. That conversation is seeded in the database. I'll show you it. It's conversation 1. I've even hard coded it in some places because it's the easiest, quick and dirty way to do it. So load all the messages which have got that conversation ID. So there's a relational database where it's we're doing it in SQLite, and it's messages belong to a conversation belongs to a user. The user part of it is all scaffolded with boilerplate out in Laravel. And the send message, this is cool. So Livewire has automatically got post message as from the front end, from the template, will already populate that as a backend. It'll already populate this here, right? That will be whatever comes in from the form configuration. So if I've already got it, I then am going to use my built-in API, and I'm going to use the HTTP facade in Laravel. So I've got messages store, so it's actually going to use the backend again to go and store the message. And then I reload it. This reloads the state. So this now is not doing anything with RCS, but this is Livewire doing stuff in situ live. So what does it look like? I've got 1,000,001 windows. Let's find the right window. Oh, let's come out of presentation mode. Exit presentation mode? Exit presentation mode. Oh, that's quite sensible. So let's close that down. Where's my actual window? There it is. I didn't do any styling. In fact, some of this is inherited from Tailwind, just out of the kind of boilerplate of Laravel. This was called Laravel message component, and there's a basic box. This looks a bit like Bootstrap, actually. And there's messages, so message. So this is a component here. If I type message and press send, that's just updated itself. So that's already Livewire doing Livewire things, right? Because unless you poll from the front end, there's no way that you'd know to update yourself. So Livewire's already done that in the background. So we've got like a basic way of sending stuff, right? You'll see on the right-hand side, you can see in the console, is that WebSockets is doing stuff and there's nothing working and it doesn't know what to do and it's erroring. That's because that's me trying to go, right, well, I've got something that sends a message, but what I need to do is, to make this work, I need to do two things. That send needs to actually send an RCS message, and it's obviously not at the moment. It's putting something into a SQL database, and that's it, SQLite database. But then when they reply, I need to get the reply, and that all needs to be wired via Vonage. So we're going to use the PHP SDK for that. So good news. Here's one I made earlier, and it's called RCS. And now I've put like a little bit of funky stuff on, like a bit of styling. This is where the complicated stuff and the implementation actually happens. So Livewire is going to be, I guess, much the same. So in Livewire, we now have a new component called RCS. And this component has got messages, because it needs to load whatever the chat is, and then post message, which is whatever you've just sent, the mount, which loads the messages. This is exactly the same. The code is no different. Let's put it into enter presentation mode. Enter presentation mode. There we go. Send message is different now, because when we send a message, we want to send it to an actual RCS client. We need to send it to Vonage. So we're going to use the PHP SDK for that, which I've already installed. It's probably not for today, but if anyone wants to know how to actually install it, there are articles. There's an article by me, which is how to send an SMS via the Messages API. You use Composer to install the PHP SDK, and then you're given a client, and then you need a private key, and you need some credentials to put into it. I'll show you that on the dashboard of Vonage of how you do that. But for now, the send message is, you have an application ID. I'll show you where to get that from. You have a private key file, which you've downloaded from Vonage. You create a credentials object, which is a key pair value. So key pair basically meaning you have a private key and then you have an associated application ID. You create the client, and I've already configured here with Vonage 2 and from, I've configured my application environment in Laravel. This comes from the environment variables file. I will show you it because after this session, I will then delete these things so you won't be able to hack anything. So don't waste your time. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. There's an application ID here. There you go. There's a private key path, which basically points to the root of the directory of everything. And then there is a 2 number. That number there is a number that is pre-registered for using for testing in RCS. If you want to do this in production, you'll need to register with Vonage as an RCS agent. The RCS agent in the from number is that, which is Vonage RCS demo devrel. That's a test account. You don't need to pay attention to that number. Don't pay attention to that number. It's definitely not an actual real number. And we will edit that out later. So it does a similar thing, but now it's actually sending the live thing. So if we're going to send the live message, we obviously have to configure that, because at the moment we've got a client and I've plugged a load of stuff in. Where's the stuff that I'm plugging in coming from? And it comes from the Vonage dashboard. So the Vonage dashboard is here. I've created an application called Knowledge Quest RCS. There's the application ID there. And you associate using link external accounts, and there's something here. It's not the same account because it's different for security reasons, but you don't need to know that. So you create an app and have an external account that you get through RCS, that you register through, right? And that's where you're going to plug all these things. When you create an application, you can go into, if I go into Knowledge Quest here, you can go into edit. This is how you do any Vonage application where you enable capabilities, a bit like OAuth 2. You enable messages, and messages work the same way that the RCS bit is not important. Everything with messages work, whether you're doing Viber, whether you're doing WhatsApp. You have to tell Vonage where you're going to forward stuff that's coming in. So in this case, I'm using ngrok. ngrok tunnels my local application out into the internet so that Vonage can send a webhook into it. And so there it is. Again, that's going to be deleted after this session. So please don't try to hack it. /RCS, and it's a post request. So anything that's posted to there, I know that is a reply to what I'm sending out. So the last bit of wiring that happens is, how does this all come together? We've got outgoing, and we've got the structure of incoming. But the key thing that holds all of this together is the code of Laravel Reverb and Laravel Echo. What was it like? What's that all about? So I've gone through the pain, and Chris, who's watching this, did it with me, and it was a pain. But we did it because these things are not easy. They're just not easy. And I'm here to try and show you the gotchas, right? So in Laravel, you have something very, very lovely. I really love it. And I'm going to type it into Google, and hopefully the results when I'm typing won't come up with very, very strange fetishes that I have, which I've made up and I don't have any. So Laravel model event broadcasting. What's that, Jim? Here we go. Event broadcasting. So, defining event, queued events listeners, dispatching event subscribers. This is not quite the right page. We're almost there. Broadcasting. So, if we go to the docs in Laravel about broadcasting, this inherently involves all of Laravel Echo, and it involves all of Laravel Reverb. Remember that Reverb is the server that's being pushed, which uses React PHP, I think. No relation to React. Don't make that mistake. They get very touchy about that if you mention it to the authors. And Echo essentially is a JavaScript library. Broadcasting is WebSockets for Laravel. That's effectively what it is. So when you want to broadcast events, you have a thing called model broadcasting. It's common to broadcast events when your application's eloquent models, that's the object relational mapper, the ORM, when something's created or updated or deleted in the database. So, okay, so Laravel actually, if you want to switch it on, creates events whenever you do anything in the database, which is good because I have a message entity of what you saw. So I'm creating that whenever something gets created either locally or someone sends something in via the webhook, I need to code that. So it creates an event. So if I dispatch an event, in fact, I say dispatch an event, the event will be dispatched automatically. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that that automatic event is then broadcast to Reverb, and then Echo is listening to that. That's what we've got to do. So you do it via the models in the ORM. It sounds totally sort of like mad, but what you're going to do is you configure it with the model, and then whenever the model's updated, your queue worker in Laravel, which is doing the background asynchronous stuff, will get a broadcastable event saying, "Oh, I've created this," and then it will push it to Reverb, and then you've already pushed Echo out via Livewire, which will be listening to it. It's really quite mad, isn't it? It's really quite something. So what does it look like? On the model is called message. On the message eloquent model, I say that it belongs to a conversation because we need to listen to all events that happen on a specific conversation. Otherwise, with this model event stuff, you'll only be listening to one event at a time. It does something really quite crazy, which is it broadcasts the exact database ID, or you use an object to translate it to a UUID. So you have to have, it needs to belong to something to listen to, and especially imagine if you've got multiple conversations. But if you look at this, you've got broadcast on is a method that is invoked by use broadcast events. So you've got broadcast events introduces broadcast on, and then I'm going to say this conversation. And then that means that every time this gets updated, it's going to broadcast on the conversation that this model belongs to, and it all belongs to the same conversation. So you've got conversation 1, which I've basically hard-coded, and everything that happens on that conversation. So to get it the opposite end to listen to it, you go into the Livewire component. This is the Livewire component. And on the Livewire component, you have something called get listeners. You have to use get listeners. If you want to use public channels when you're broadcasting, you can do that. But because this is everything that happens on a model is broadcast privately on private channels so that multiple users signed in, they can't see it, right? So how much have we got? 15 minutes to actually do this so that we can actually display it functioning in action. Get listeners has to be used. And you can see you've got this syntax here, which is echo private. Then you're using namespaces, which is app, models, conversation. I've hard-coded one. That should be dynamic. And this functionality, this built-in message created, that is automatically built into Laravel. And then it says, if I get one of these, do this in Livewire, which is refresh. What does refresh do? It's just there. It's a wrapper for load messages, and load messages reloads whatever's been sent. Those are your sort of 2 basic parts to it. There's probably a mountain of stuff in the middle that's kind of missing. A lot of that is kind of, I don't know. What's the authorization is the last part of it that's kind of essential. But to do all of this model broadcasting, it does involve the login and authorization system that's built into Laravel. And it really does. I can't stress enough. You can't just say, I just want to broadcast and see if it listens to things. Laravel is inherently built into design so that you have to do the built-in structure scaffolding, and you have to log in. And I found out the hard way about this. So if you don't do that, you will just get a 403 and your WebSockets won't work. So the way you do that is in routes, you have a thing called channels. And in channels, I've got broadcast channel, apps, models, conversation, the ID. It passes in the user and the ID as a closure, and then it finds if that ID is there or not. This is inherently magic from the login system of Laravel. I can't do anything about that. There will be ways about that. I will spend more time about, like, well, what if I just want to broadcast publicly around things? But we are using everything that's magic and built in. So in order to get the server up and running, before Karl tests it with me, exit presentation mode, we go onto our command line. In our command line, I know it's a bit small, but this needs to be my queue, my event worker. So we say, thanks, PHP artisan queue work. It's using Redis in the background to do this. And then we need to start our WebSocket server, and that is PHP artisan reverb start. I'm putting --debug because I want to see the stuff happening in action. It started on port 8080. You need to be signed in, otherwise nothing happens. So in order to sign in, this is the bit where it's a bit of a trip up, but I think I'm signed in. If I just go to the root of this, you get the Laravel page, and you can see I don't need to sign in because it says dashboard. You hit dashboard, Laravel's boilerplate gives you a fake dashboard for whenever you want to build something. If you want to build something funky with Laravel filament or something like that. But I don't care about that. So I care about RCS. So RCS is my component. All of the credentials you've seen now are plugged into Karl's account and Karl's number. So there's a message there. I'm going to delete it just so you can see it happening in real time to make sure that I'm not faking it. Fake it till you make it. If I go into my SQLite database, you've got I've created a conversations table. I've created a messages table, and I've created I haven't created a users table. The boilerplate has created users table. The conversation belongs to the user. All of the messages belong to the conversation, and so therefore you have the chain. If you want to go through doing this implementation of it, like I said, hit us up on the community community Slack. There can be links for that. Maybe Brittany can post those, or you can message me on on LinkedIn, or you can message me on Blue Sky, or find me on the PHP Mastodon. But we have these tables. So messages. Messages I'm going to delete. There's a message there, right? So that's just in a SQLite database. So I'm going to select that and delete it. Deleted. So therefore my app, if I go back to it and I refresh the page, it's not there. There's no messages found. If I want to go to the spec, which you can, so Karl showed you the spec earlier of RCS, you can get a webhook spec. So what I did is, to test this before we actually do it live, is I've opened up an endpoint and I've copied an example payload of what a webhook would look like in RCS. And so this is just copied directly. So if I send that to my RCS endpoint and post it, I've got an endpoint in my Laravel app that will update it, and therefore everything else should be wired together. So I'm going to do it now, and you send it. Incoming text message via RCS web. That's just happened with only backend code. There's no front-end code in that. Well, there is, but it's been compiled. So that was a test, which is nice. But now we have to do the scary thing, which is the last hurrah, which is I'm going to invite Karl back on, because we now actually have to do this live, and he has to show his phone to the screen. So
let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do this thing. So
send me a message.
I'm gonna refresh this now, and if I refresh the database, There's the database entry. I'm going to delete it again, so that save that right, and refresh, because there's no, when I delete it directly on the database, it's not going to fire events. The events are being fired from the ORM. I'm going to send a message to Karl, because if I send this, if I click send on that, send. Hi Karl, this is Livewire. Reverb, echo, and RCS, and I send it. Have you got your noise on your phone?
It should be, I think. Yeah, go on, try it.
I want the.
Let's try it. Go on.
I swear down, this is going to give me a 500. It's live demos. It always happens, right? Done. Sent.
Oh, it's just a very quiet whoop. Yeah,
Oh,
got the
okay.
message.
I wanted you to turn the volume up, but you got it. There we go. You got it. You got it. So
I
now,
got it. I'm gonna reply. I'm
is,
gonna send you a reply.
as we're about to see, RCS is not like SMS. If he sends a response and the WebSocket is running pretty quickly, so it should pick it up quite quickly. It's picking up via. It's picking up via what's it called? Like my ngrok I might add as well. So.
Nice work.
What's he writing? Super cool demo, Jim. Nice work. And boom goes the dynamite. So really, in the sort of conclusion, I'll let Brittany and Karl do sort of conclusion is that sure, like this is built-in stuff via Laravel. It's quick, it's easy to scaffold. There's a lot of caveats with production, right? There's so many. I'm taking so many shortcuts. There's hard-coded stuff in here, and you don't want to do that ever. But when I was texting Karl earlier, and he was just sending stuff, I was like, hang on a minute, this is like quick, because the RCS protocol is not delivering it over the same protocol as traditional SMS, right? And this is kind of the whole point of it, and that's the reason why I've written a semi-styled WhatsApp kind of bot, like messenger for it, is that it isn't SMS. It should behave like SMS, but it's not. It's faster, but also by its very nature, by it being called RCS, you've got the rich text stuff. So the next kind of iterations, and maybe this will be the next Knowledge Quest, and I think maybe probably testing with either PEST or PHP unit will come into it. But what I'm going to do is obviously add the plus button, and I'm going to start doing mad things like location and sending videos and things like that. But as a starter point, this was a great kind of app to construct, and we're just kind of getting going with it.
Yeah, nice work, Jim. I think like just to come on this, the idea behind this demo. So the kind of use case I had in mind for this was kind of like a real-time chat app that you might use in like customer support context or something. So yeah, you could be chatting with a customer who's messaging you over the RCS, but you've got a web view that's updating in real time. So obviously we're just showing text messages here. But
the fact there's multiple. If you want to use the Vonage live chat kind of live chat API, which was called conversations, it's now called RTS, I think, real time messaging, something like that. If you've got availability for RCS and RTS, you can fall back as like a customer, in the sort of bottom right hand corner where you have live chat. The best kind of vertical markets I can think of for this are things like healthcare, or when it's customer support for logistics or something like that. You can sort of try and determine how your customer is trying to communicate with you. If your customer can communicate in near real time via their phone, but with the traditional messaging app, but it's not SMS, I would say that's a bit of a groundbreaking kind of implementation.
Yeah. You can do multi-channel chat as well. So if the same number is associated with the device, a customer could message you via SMS or RCS, and you could associate it with the same number on the same chat. And you could do something cool like display in the web view what kind of messaging channel they're using, that kind of thing. So there's lots of potential applications. But yeah, well, as I said, in the intro, one of the advantages with RCS is you get much larger capabilities in terms of text messages. So even for text messaging, it's better than say SMS, where you have a limit, or if you send long messages with SMS, they get split up into multiple SMS messages. So yeah, it's a lot easier to kind of send long conversations and stuff, which again for a customer service type scenario is probably an advantage.
Yeah, I think also if there's no limit, I think what you can't kind of I'm going to use the magical letters, the magical two letters of AI, because you can't avoid it. And the fact that as a company, Vonage is kind of focused on omni-channel kind of communications and resolving different modes of communication within the same instance, within whatever your use case is, that you need to right, option number one is this, or option number two is this, or it'll default to this. For AI prompts and stuff like that with RCS, that's where it feels like there's going to be quite a bit of an opening. Because as much as, I don't know, as a developer, I want to ignore it, but I can't. There's just the capabilities of AI at the moment are sort of just becoming strong. Of course, if you do prompts badly or you do an implementation badly, you can still joke like cryptocurrency that anyone can do anything badly, which is true. But for these kind of areas of communication, sending and forwarding on prompts for the dreaded AI customer service AI bot, I've had some of that are good, a lot that are bad. I'm not gonna lie. But there's
We've got a couple of minutes left, Jim. So do we want to open up for questions here? If anyone's got any questions or comments. Anyone have any thoughts or anything they want to ask around either the Laravel implementation or RCS MCP? Yeah, that'd be fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris. What about RCS sending bash commands? That'd be fun, wouldn't it? To do some DevOps over the wire. That'd be pretty fun.
I'm sure seeing that one of our previous colleagues built something along those lines, controlling.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna go and look at that and see if I can find it.
Yeah, but any other questions in the last couple of minutes here, or should we think about wrapping up?
Oh, obligatory RF joke.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. There you go. I bamboozled everyone, Brittany.
You did. Well done, guys. There's no more questions, but you guys did great. Oh, we do have a question. I'm graduating.
We do. Let's.
We've got a careers page you can check out. I'm not sure what's on there right now.
Vonage careers.
Yeah, I think it's just vonage.com/careers. Is it? Something like that.
Vonage.com/careers. I think it's. Yeah, that's so. If you go to, obviously choose location. So there's specific kind of areas that I think our particular page might be better than that. But in terms of location, there is quite a lot of open roles in specifically in Poland and India at the moment. Still some US stuff. Some stuff has just some stuff looks like it's happened now, has opened up in Mexico. So we're a global company, so there's people from all over the place.
If you're early in your career, like there's lots of cool Vonage tutorials you can try to build some fun stuff with and show off on your portfolio. So the more you build with Vonage, the better.
Yeah, check out our blog. There's a ton of stuff on the blog.
There's in terms of if there's if you want to ask for, if you want kind of generic careers advice, we can't offer sort of like one-to-one careers advice, because we've got a lot of this. We wear a lot of hats. We've got a lot of jobs to do. But in general, you can sign up to the Vonage community Slack, and if you want like a sort of vague kind of direction, we won't be able to target it or spend sort of like a great deal of focus. If you do want a great deal of focus, then you do get my undivided attention if you sign up to Laravel's, because I mentor on Laravel's, which is the Laravel's community for underrepresented people. Or I say it used to be underrepresented, but I think the more sort of the more accurate thing is the way to describe people that aren't represented is underestimated, because there's the sort of built-in ignorance in the background of people that if you join that, then then you might get my undivided attention, because I do that anyway. But there's a lot out there for kind of careers advice, but I would recommend, if you want to do cool stuff, we've got plenty of tutorials. The YouTube channel is picking up a bit now. You'll find some quite cool stuff that Alexandra, our video kind of advocate, is putting out at the moment. Plenty of resources to go on.
Everyone is so helpful. I love this. Awesome. Well, guys, it's 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
You've done your job.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, also, good work.
Well done, everyone. And thank you all
Thanks
to everyone who joined.
Right, thanks for joining, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Have a good day, all.
I'll see you later. Bye.